Well, the G7 summit began in Canada on Sunday as the conflict between Israel and Iran looms over the already fraught gathering. This year's meeting, which brings together the leaders from the 7 largest industrialized democracies, has been characterized, and I quote, as the G6 versus Donald Trump, with officials expected to pressure US President Donald Trump on trade as well as Russia. In fact, you must note that one Canadian official actually said that it's like preparing the red carpet for Godzilla. Even so, the escalation in the Middle East could expose fresh divisions. The UK and France have urged restraint, while Japan has condemned Israeli strikes, and Trump, as you know, has called them excellent. The leaders will now try to influence Trump's handling of the conflict, given Washington's leverage over the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, something my colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been highlighting as well. My colleague Maha Siddiqui has been tracking the latest as far as the G7 summit is concerned. What can we expect? Well, listen in to Maha's report.
Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something.
From an annexation threat,
I might go up with that tariff in the not-too-distant future,
to punishing tariffs that threaten to cripple the Canadian economy. US President Donald Trump has deployed an economic shock-and-awe strategy against America's former beloved neighbor. But under a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and on their soil, Canada would like to respond at the G7 summit.
We're focused on the issues. We're still facing and intensifying unjustified tariffs from our largest trading partner. And the best way to respond to that is to respond at home, to build strength at home.
While the G7 summit in Kananaskis is drawing immense attention to see how President Trump tees off on a land that many believe he's coveting for its resources. However, there's another bilateral equation that is being watched with equal, if not more interest.
Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me?
These two men will meet during the G7 summit after 2 years of frosty ties between New Delhi and Ottawa.
Ready to build Canada strong.
Prime Minister Carney extended an invitation to India a week ahead of the G7 summit in Canada. Prime Minister Modi accepted the invite, and what followed was Carney defending his decision in the face of mounting scrutiny from both domestic critics and international observers.
Fifth largest economy in the world, effectively the most populous country in the world, central to a number of those supply chains, at the heart of a number of those supply chains, so it makes sense.
India's global economic stature is not the only reason why it will be at G7. For host Canada, mending ties with India is critical right now. Facing betrayal from the United States, Canada is looking to diversify its trade relationships. India is one of the 3 big economies of the region, apart from China and Japan. Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy of 2022 highlighted the significance of India in the world's fastest-growing region. Indo-Pacific accounts for more than 1/3 of the global economic activity and is projected to represent half of the world's GDP by 2040. Bilateral equations apart, for Prime Minister Mark Carney successfully securing a G7 statement in the face of an unpredictable President Trump, diverging priorities of the G7 members because of the trade upheaval caused by the United States and the geopolitical tensions will remain a challenge. In Canada, this is Maha Siddiqui for NDTV.
In fact, my colleague Maha Siddiqui joins us live as well for a quick update on what to expect today. Maha, this year's meeting, many analysts say, has been characterized as the G6 versus Trump. Take us through the plan of action and what to expect today.
Absolutely, Parmeshwar. The explanation by many critics, observers, as far as this G7 summit is concerned, pitting all against Donald is a very descriptive, considering the fact that that Donald Trump's tariffs have really thrown everybody in the G7, all the countries and as well as the EU in G7 completely at this moment in a dizzy. The impact on Canada, as we have seen, is well documented already, considering there are job losses that we are talking about, especially in the sectors of where steel and aluminum is needed and required, as well as in sectors like automobiles. There are already people who have lost their jobs. And Mark Carney is pretty clear on this aspect that this is an issue that he does not want the G7 summit to fall prey to, but an important issue that is going to be taken up, considering that the European countries also want, as well as the EU, of course, also want to take this up with President Donald Trump. But what we hear and what we understand at the moment is President Trump's own interest in a multilateral forum like the G7 or a grouping like G7 is waning, and he is looking at this platform in Kananaskis as more of a bilateral engagement platform. We understand that he will be holding bilateral meetings with certain countries, and that he is likely to use this tool of tariffs that he has unleashed across many countries to be used as a negotiating tool. So this is as far as what we are expecting in the G7.
As always, Maha, thank you so much for highlighting what to expect. We'll, of course, revert to you for regular updates.